Alright everyone, welcome to the channel. Let's check out what's going on with FITFI. So, I haven't checked this out in the past couple of days. I've been heavily researching a new PC to upgrade to, and now I have finally figured that out and bought it. I am going to be back with these daily uploads, daily updates over on FITFI. So if you are interested in that, make sure to sub to the channel. Let's jump right into the content. So in the previous video we made, I was actually talking about how I thought something like this was going to play out, where we kind of chop a bit and then we do break to the downside of this asymmetrical triangle. And ironically, we obviously have broken to the downside of it, but we really just kind of broke out, lollygagged, and now it looks like the move is going to be coming into play, because we actually really just, like I said, we lollygagged underneath these EMA ribbons for so long, and because of that, these EMA ribbons, they're just getting tighter and tighter and tighter, and there's really not much spring left in these EMA ribbons. At some point they're going to have a big move, and whether that's going to be to the upside or the downside, I'm personally thinking the downside is more likely. It seems like since the staking came about on FITFI, everything's been kind of like a buy the rumor, sell the news since then. It hasn't been held up that well since then. So we failed this inverse head and shoulders. I believe we talked about this. You can see we had a shoulder, head, shoulder, failed. Normally these failed moves equals a fast move in the opposite direction, but in this instance, a failed move equals a lollygag underneath the EMA ribbons, and then I think we're going to have that fast move. So I do think, unfortunately, FITFI is going to be breaking to the downside. Let's see how this fib played out. Not respected to the teeth. This EMA moving up, or sorry, the price target of that micro move would not even be valid because it's in the minuses as well. You can see we're back down at the lows, rejection from the 786, so I think this would be valid. 12 cent, 1.618, also all the way down to 1 cent according to the 2.618. I don't think we'd be moving anywhere down that low. However, I would definitely be very cautious. I've been saying this in all my move to earn videos. I believe these move to earns are here for a short time. They're here for a good time. They're not going to be here for a long time. That's my opinion. That's how I look at these. So I do think FITFI is unfortunately going to be breaking down. Let's look at this on a higher time frame, and then we will go down as we go. Tons of selling volume has been happening this week alone. 128 million FITFI has been sold. We're only sitting on Wednesday right now, so this could get a lot more exponential. The last week before that, we had 628 million FITFI sold, and the week before that, 760. So it is decreasing, but this is still very exponential, and volume is indicative of price, even though we are kind of converging and we are losing a little bit of that momentum. I think as the market cap diminishes, that also has something to do with it. Volume is also decreasing in terms of both bearish and bullish momentum, and that makes sense when you kind of look at what's been going on. And it is not just FITFI that is doing a whole lot of lollygagging. It's a good thing I decided to take a few days off the altcoins as this was happening, because I've been looking at Tron. Tron was doing a whole lot of nothing. This is the BTC pair, so this is completely different from what Tron against the US dollar is doing. But we also looked at Ape, and most of these altcoins at this moment in time, if we look at this on the 4 hour, you can see, like I said, whole lot of nothing. The lower highs and the lower low, or sorry, the higher lows and the lower highs are just very mundane, and we're really not moving exponential in either direction. So I would be expecting for this to happen for most of the altcoin markets. I really think the altcoins are waiting for Bitcoin to make a macro move, and at this moment in time, Bitcoin is capitulating to the bottom of this. If I zoom out to the weekly so you can see it, this is a falling wedge. Super valid. If we draw it on the daily, you can see I must have moved this up a tiny bit by accident. So it's actually meant to be more along the lines of this. And as you can see, we are moving down very brutally. And it does seem like we are about to very potentially capitulate below 29,000. What does this have to do with FITFI? Well, if we hop over to this chart for Bitcoin, in my opinion, Bitcoin is coming down to 22,000. I'm a huge Bitcoin bull, but in the short term, I think we're breaking down. 29,000 absolutely needs to hold. If you see daily landslides below 29,000, especially if we break below 29,000 and put in a weekly candle body close below it, that would be absolutely brutal for the price action of Bitcoin. And if Bitcoin does flush out, you know, a further 25% or so, then these altcoins can get absolutely slaughtered against Bitcoin. Because how do I know this? I was here in 2018, and this scenario playing out back then is almost identical to what's playing out now. A few of the lines have changed. We've got a little bit more support. We've got 2 lines instead of 3. We had a double top instead of a blow off top, but you know, it doesn't always have to mirror each other, but they do rhyme. They do look very, very similar. So I think the breakdown is more likely than the break up for Bitcoin at this moment in time. That being said, if Bitcoin does capitulate, if you're watching this and Bitcoin is massively, massively landsliding below 29,000, I think a lot of these moves to earns are going to capitulate very, very hard. And you know, I said, you know, I don't necessarily think it could come down to 1 cent, but what I wouldn't be doing is DCAing, you know, if we come back down to these lows at like 7 or 8 cent, thinking that this is the bottom. I think it could get a lot more ugly, especially if Bitcoin decides that 22,000 on the 200-week moving average is not enough to subside its blood first. If we do come down to something like 20,000, which is the previous all-time high, and bear in mind measuring Bitcoin against the M2 money supply, so in counting for inflation, Bitcoin is already back at the 200-week moving average. And previously, sometimes we do bottom here, so very interesting stuff in play. Obviously, the market psychology wouldn't have changed. The money has been exponentially printed, but that being said, accounting for inflation, Bitcoin is already back at these levels. So I think the bottom could be very, very near. I do think we are going to break down, though. That is one thing that I do think. I think the bottom is near either way, so I would be looking soon, potentially, to pick up some altcoins, but at this moment in time, absolutely not. I'm doing what I've been saying for the past week, for the past 2 weeks, which is going hard on Bitcoin, DCAing Bitcoin all the time. I bought a ton of Bitcoin in the past 2 days alone, so much Bitcoin, and I have buy orders all the way down at 22,000, where I do plan on picking up, you know, a plethora more of Bitcoin. I mean, can you say that, a plethora more of Bitcoin? I plan on picking up, you know, a decent amount more of Bitcoin as Bitcoin falls out of this falling wedge, to say. So that is all I've got for FITFI. I think we are going to be breaking down to lower levels. We've only recently kind of just broken below these lows. You know, we came down, we formed a higher low, but now we're kind of capitulating out of this pattern. I think it's about time that we revisit that low. So I'm expecting a move of about 63% to the downside. Bearish volume would support that theory. You know, coming over to the weekly, it is predominantly selling volume. Daily, it's a kind of hush puppy mix between the two, but I definitely see bears being more in control of this trend than the bulls. So with all that said, I think it's fairly evident that we are breaking down every time we come up to these EMA ribbons. It seems to soon ensue with a break back down to the downside. So that's what I see happening for FITFI. My personal price target is down here at 8 cents. That's all I've got. Cowboy out, not financial advice. Peace.